Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
But I still believe in America, and I always will. And if you do, then we must accept this result and then look to the future. Donald Trump is going to be our president. We owe him an open mind and the chance to lead. Our constitutional democracy enshrines the peaceful transfer of power. And we don't just respect that, we cherish it.
Not my president! Not my president! Not my president! Not my president! Not my president!
Hi everyone, I'm Elaine Quijano. As Donald Trump and his transition team prepare to take over the White House, protesters across the country take to the streets. Chants of "Not My President" echoed across several major cities Wednesday. Hundreds of people gathered outside Trump Tower in Chicago. It was a similar scene in Washington, D.C., outside a Trump hotel, where a few demonstrators got into a scuffle with hotel staffers as they tried to push back a barricade. And after violence erupted in California's Bay Area Wednesday morning, protesters are filling the streets again in Oakland.
Not my president! Not my president!
And hundreds gathered in New York City's Union Square, calling Trump racist, sexist, and anti-gay. Another group of demonstrators came together at Times Square and marched toward Trump Tower. Jamie Yuccas is outside of Trump Tower in New York City. Jamie, what is the message that these demonstrators want to send?
Elaine, a number of them just kept chanting various causes and saying that Donald Trump is not their president. They just kept going on and on, whether it was about racism, sexism. A number of people compared him to the KKK, that type of thing. You can see right now that the crowd is starting to disperse a little bit here at Trump Tower. We're at 58th Street and 5th Avenue. At one point in time, police officers here on site told me that they believed between 1,000 and 3,500 people had marched from Times Square up to this area. We know that another group is going to be meeting at Union Square, potentially joining them to then march from Times Square up here right now. But you can see the crowd starting to disperse right now. They're headed up towards Central Park and Columbus Circle. We are in a barricaded area. The police had cordoned off the media at one point in time, trying to corral us into one spot so that we didn't get lost in the mob. You can hear some chanting. You can actually, I'm going to step out of the way. You can see the police officers moving the barricades back. Now, these barricades were set up for the protesters themselves, and it looks like they're trying to open up Fifth Avenue once again. At one point in time, we actually had people hanging from street lamps and different poles here. We watched some people crawl up onto transit bus stations, that kind of thing. You can see in front of Trump Tower, there's been a lot of security right outside there. You can see a lot of the garbage trucks and barricades that have been set up. I did have a couple police officers tell me that at one point Donald Trump was home today, but they believe that he did leave at one point tonight. We do know that he's supposed to be in Washington, D.C. tomorrow meeting with President Obama, so we're not sure of Donald Trump's whereabouts at this point in time. But with these two protests that you mentioned happening tonight, it seems that he may have gotten out of town. We know Melania will also be meeting with Michelle Obama tomorrow as well to go over that transition team. So you can see the police officers starting to push people now onto the sidewalks here in Midtown Manhattan and get them out of this specific area tonight to try to get them on their way. This was expected. People had been posting on Facebook and that type of thing that these protests were going to be happening tonight. It seems like for the most part things remain peaceful. There were some moments where we saw on social media that somebody had been saying that there were some arrests that happened and potentially some fires that were started here in front of Trump Tower. But I just talked to an organizer who said that the NYPD did a really good job keeping everybody safe, that they're actually very happy with how things turned out tonight, that they moved people right along and are now dispersing them up to Columbus Circle.
All right, Jamie Yuccas, thank you so much.
Election results are settling in. The transition of power has begun. And overnight, thousands of marchers in several cities took the streets to protest Donald Trump's victory.
Some of the protests were violent, but many stayed peaceful. Some demonstrators carry this sign. We did see this a lot. Love Trump's hate.
And here in New York, an artist started this wall, calling it subway therapy, where people had a chance to write notes or whatever they felt. And as you can see, it's a very nice note there that says, "Stay united and hopeful."
That was the message of President Obama yesterday as well, and he's invited Donald Trump to meet him in the Oval Office this morning. We're going to have that this morning, and we're going to get into a lot on the transition of power. But first, ABC's Gio Benitez is outside Trump Tower here in New York with more on the protests overnight. Good morning, Gio.
George, good morning to you. In so many ways, these are protests fueled by social media, and don't expect them to die down anytime soon, because right now, the #1 trend on Twitter is that hashtag Trump protests. Overnight, protests across the country turning violent in the early morning hours, as thousands of protesters from New York to Los Angeles gathered in the streets to protest the election of Donald Trump. Police in Oakland used tear gas to keep the crowd of nearly 7,000 at bay. Major freeways in Los Angeles shut down as crowds burned effigies of Trump and marched on City Hall. Demonstrators flocking to Trump-owned properties in New York. There is such anger here right in front of Donald Trump's home. They're chanting, "This is what democracy looks like." From the ballot box to the streets of New York, these people are letting their voices be heard. More than 10,000 gathered throughout the city, crowds blocking traffic, chanting, screaming, expressing their frustration. Some climbing scaffolding and street signs to protest above the crowd.
We're just people who are here, who love this country as much as any other person.
At least 120 protesters arrested nationwide overnight. And we should tell you, the president-elect has not yet commented on these protests. But after being here overnight, I gotta tell you, these protests were just so loud you could hear it for blocks. It's hard to imagine how anyone here got much sleep from it.
You know, we did hear it loud and clear. All right, Gio, thank you.
Tremendous. I think it's going to be tremendous. We have one of those guys from the Hillary Clinton campaign. How much are you being paid? $1,500? All right. Take him out. When we win the election on Tuesday, you will finally have a government on your side, fighting for your community, and protecting your family. By the way, folks, while we're at it, great.
All right, go.
Let's not forget who's always in control. Yes, it is a real silk shocker. But let's exercise reason. Since when do they give a figurehead access to the nuclear codes? Or any real power? For that matter, he's a figurehead. So let's not forget that. Now we can figure in what direction we fixing the head, because of the figurehead that they chose. Somebody had just sent me a link, say Curtis Blow is recovering from a heart attack. I know a lot of us thought we was gonna have the big one. Go join Elizabeth after that. But that's what was part of the desired energy and reaction. Of course, anger, confusion. God is not the author of confusion, so when these spirits are abound, you have a perfect breeding ground for the germs and ills of chaos and disorder. And within less than 24 hours of everybody digesting the news, you had protests going on in major cities nationwide, including Detroit. Not our president rallies springing up from coast to coast in New York. In California, you had Berkeley students, hundreds mobilized to protest Trump. You even had teachers joining students to protest Trump. And what we want to focus on is why they chose the figurehead that they did. Okay. The shock and the awe and the surprise of it was but a part. It's also interesting that there were a lot of reports of shooting and things involving the police clashes, not necessarily with protesters, but just it seemed as if the news cycle was giving us a premonition of things to come. Since this news hit everybody's ears, we've heard a lot of things going on in different cities. Now, this is why they chose the figurehead that they did. With all of these smart money and the rational thinking prognosticators leaning towards Hillary Clinton, one thing that I didn't calculate in that, not like I should have, was the timetable factor. Hillary Clinton would take a longer time to produce results of the New World Order kind because she has a persona and a character that I'm sure she would not have. It would not serve her to drastically change from that character. And for some of the things that we expect for the New World Order to do and accomplish, she would have had to make some drastic changes. And yeah, they would have spun them around. Everything that they are going to get accomplished with Donald Trump, they could have gotten accomplished with Hillary Clinton or with any goofy goober in the office. But with Donald Trump, the expectation, okay, of war, riots, race issues, the eradication of social programs, martial law, financial collapse, isolation of our nation from the others. These things can be more easily expected, and they can be more easily facilitated because you have a big mouth with a bully pulpit. Okay, which I do believe was the word of the day. Now, it's interesting. I saw a link that was saying, now this was the morning of the election. This was before Trump was actually elected. And it was not true. But what it was saying, you know, on some of the sites that appeal to those of us who like fringe news or who want some news from the alternative media or news with a conspiracy theorist edge, there are so many sites that play on us and cater to that, but don't give us right and exact fact. Well, and I'm not saying that this is one of those sites, because I've seen some good things on there too, but just that these sites receive stories from all sorts of freelance writers. And so it's not necessarily something that you want to use as a source of fact. Okay? But I thought it was interesting. They had said that the word of the day was a German word, which, you know, that should have been the first red flag. But they said that it was a word that meant chaos and disorder, public unrest, and all this type of thing. And I said to myself, well, now I wonder what are they going to do with this election? Now, I'm almost sure I saw that link before the election. Okay? Because I thought about it. I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. I said, well, perhaps they'll do something surprising. But I still did not think the surprise was going to be that they would actually let him be that figurehead. This also shows that they're playing into the Ratchet TV philosophy and mentality. Yes, he was on a TV show that's supposed to be based in reality, so-called reality TV. However, he wasn't on syndicated Ratchet TV. He was on national Ratchet TV, okay? So he appealed to societies or to the country's lower nature. And when things appeal to that lower nature in this pop culture, they tend to celebrate it. Folks tend to then believe that it should be celebrated, and unfortunately, it gets more attention. More folks are drawn to that. So he had a certain plug-in with his audience. It still doesn't matter. As if they're doing this by actually counting individual votes and being fair about the electoral votes. As if presidential elections have been nothing but installations of the regime that the bankers and the megalomaniacs and the illuminated ones in power, the Brotherhood members in power, want to install. So what this tells us, y'all, is that what they wanted for this next phase, for this next leg, is something unpredictable. Okay. Something, they wanted a figurehead who would not have to exhibit the smoothness that they used when they put Obama as the figurehead. They needed a smoothness at that time, a subtlety. I cannot imagine them using this figurehead, Donald Trump, in a subtle manner. He can insult heads of state and get us in position for war. He can insult huge groups of the population, especially those who feel marginalized or disenfranchised. He can insult them and then create societal unrest single-handedly. He can put unfair trade restrictions on other countries and then create economic instability. Interesting, his vice president, he chose a man named Pence. Trump and Pence both have to do with money. You ever played a game of spades? The trump card, that's the card, beat them all. Now, and of course, lots of people playing for spades, especially in a casino environment. Bam. Trump card, casino, Pence. Pence. Do you remember Sing a Song of Sixpence? I believe that was one of those ancient nursery rhymes when I was coming up. But let's see. Pence is a plural form of penny. So interesting. You have the high card, the trump, and then you have the pence, the penny, which is the low, the penny, the smallest coin that we use here. And you also have in Trump a good reason to leave OBs in should something occur unexpected. We have to remember he's not officially able to do anything. Again, as if, remember, don't believe two opposing realities at the same time. As if the president actually calls the shots, right? Okay? So, he's never going to be in power. But we're not supposed to believe he takes power until after he's inaugurated. And we talked about this before, Al Gore, or to inaugurate means to make one a witch. And he is not a neuro-linguistic programming master or a master of any other Masonic manipulation any more so than the rest of them are. Because again, there's always the spirits that they bow down to. And because they deal with degrees in a hierarchy, there's always somebody over them that they have to answer to. Okay? Until you get backstage to the behind the closed doors crew, people that you do not see, me and you. They put these folks in front of us as the figurehead, the mouthpiece to push forward the agenda that the people behind closed doors want pushed forward. So should something occur in the midst of this transition, okay, between the time he was elected, rather selected, and then the time that he's made an augur or inaugurated, if something happens in between that time span, something catastrophic, or ISIS now feels that the country is weak because of all the protests going on, so they strike where he's from and all that. See, the premise now to fill in this story, this write your own ending storybook. The premise now can be better seen. You can see how things can play out better now, can't you? With him in there. And yeah, it is a write your own ending storybook. Because those books only have so many endings in them. There's only so many pages, only so many possibilities. But what the elite may do is give you the option of a few. But all roads will lead to the New World Order, the way that they want things done. They'll just install different figureheads in order to accomplish different goals and put a different look or spin on it. Trump is a wild card. It's unable to tell what he might do from the character that he plays, the role that they've given him. It's a very bold role, right? Hillary Clinton's role or character was one that at least gave more of an air of stability and experience. So people would not expect for her to make certain mistakes and faux pas. So it's all about time frame. Old Trump can accomplish more in a shorter amount of time. He's in a better position to facilitate all of those things that we just named. Make the U.S. vulnerable for attack, give people reason to have the chip, maybe to make sure that, you're actually a legal citizen and all. See, there's so many things that can be accomplished through him. Creating a new system of socialism, all of that, okay? A new way to depend on the government, again, that may require for you to be chipped or something along that line. Now, it's interesting, again, that they chose to do this. It also shows this. We've talked about this a few times. The Illuminati is laughing at the people. Like, man, we ain't got to even hide no more. So they gave us a figurehead that's more like them in character than ever before. Even with the big O, they gave us a character, he's deceptive and smooth. Trump is deceptive and bold. Bold about it. Unapologetic. He's the attack dog, right? So that means that now they are ready to take off the mask. Stop being smooth and subtle. And go bodyguard hard. He's the perfect person for them to accomplish that with. I'm sure that they did this in other cities as well, but in Detroit there were not only not our president rallies, but there were some churches who stayed open for prayer, okay, for folks who felt like that they needed to pray about this situation here. Now, the powers that be are ordained of the Lord. However, again, we know that there is the plan of man, and then there's God's perfect plan. There is the way that man orchestrates things, and then there's God's unchanging hand. These are the things that man has brought about because of his rebellion. These are the things that mankind has brought about because of his insistence on enjoying a system that's built upon ungodly principles. And so therefore, yes, or it has been ordained of the Father that now's the time. The man is in position who will be able to facilitate all of the different things that we've talked about before without so much spin on it, without so much smoothing out of it and explaining of it as you would have to do with Hillary. Or even with Obama for that matter. They had folks so enchanted they could have just about explained anything to us, like the color commentator in a sports game. When you know that you just saw something foul and funky that should not be, somebody cheated or something and they just smoothed it over, then here comes the color commentator to explain to you why that happened and why it's legal and why you did not see what you just saw. Well, the political analysts will be doing the same thing. They will be trying to explain to you why this happened, and it's because enough folks didn't get out to vote, and enough women didn't back Hillary, and enough black folks didn't come out like they did for Barack. But in reality, you need to know that this has nothing to do with those things, with the electoral college, nor with the popular vote. Okay, we've got a red Congress now, the House and the Senate, both Republican. So what this means too is that they can also use the conservative attack. Again, the devil has a plan A and a plan B, the alpha plan, the aggressive plan, and the B, the beta plan, the feminine plan, the passive aggressive plan, to ease it up on you, okay, to smooth it through. So now that this system is coming to its time of judgment and collapse, We see the person whom they've chosen to steer us there. Remember, he's not going to call shots, but be the mouthpiece for those who do. And he's not yet been inaugurated. So when things fall apart, the big O may still appear to be running the show. Okay? So let's not forget that. And still, these are the figureheads that are put before us to make us ignore the fact that there are people behind closed doors, men of renown, okay, the kings of this earth, Psalm 2 and 2, who are really those who call shots. And they don't want the opinion of me and you. They don't want our vote. They have an agenda that they want to run through and establish because they have the power and the unity to do so. So they use politicians and politics to create the story, like the color commentator, to make us buy it. Even when what we see and we not believing. And that's what the politicians are for. So you can imagine the type of things that he would steer us through. That they would use him as the mouthpiece to steer us through. And these are not the original ideas of Trump. Again, whatever he said, it is what the interests that are really behind him, really in control of him, want him to say. And if those are those boys, okay, those brotherhood guys, and we know they are, then anything that they've been pumping him up to keep saying is something that they have great intent on doing, or they want the public to believe they'll do. For problem, reaction, solution. So, and they say, well, Hillary won the popular vote and blah, 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 this, that, and the third, whatever. None of that mattered. She was not surprised. You can't tell me she was surprised. But see, I don't know. They're so dirty the way that they play this game. Perhaps they did surprise her. But I just don't believe it. I don't think that's how this is done. When you are part of a group who pulls the wool over the eyes of everyone, you too can be double-crossed. But I think that they work more in unison than we believe. And so I do believe that, she already knew what it was going to come down to. And the shock and amazement in people, I'm telling you, people, y'all can imagine. Detroit folks was cussing up a storm. They didn't get out there and vote. Well, what they think was going to happen. Okay. But folks are worried about their checks getting cut off and everything now, right? Like immediately.
Thank you.
Again, that's part of feeding the
Sorry to keep
fires
you
of
waiting.
fear.
Complicated business.
Spirits of fear and anxiety, shock, surprise, stress. Why? If you're blessed by the best, don't worry about the rest. So, with that being said, I just wanted to give my little 2 cents on it. And we will come back for some more as more developments unfold, and I'm sure that they will. Okay, I think it's going to be action-packed, to where we may need to do a news and views each week and a weekly message each week. So, but next we'll be coming back with the reading and the message. And I thank you all for stopping by. And don't worry. Don't let it cause you to catch the fever that they're trying to put out here. Okay, for the children of the Father. Okay, we're immune to that. So, again, if God be with us, who can be against us? So we stand on that. We stand firm on our Father whose ways are higher than the ways of man.
I say it is time for us
Stay in the
to come together
confident protection
as
of his
one
mighty hand.
united people.
That you said ain't nothing else worth saying. I love y'all. God bless you. You can give me some reports on different things going on in your city. You know, how folks are feeling and reacting to this. And we'll keep this conversation going. All right? Much love to y'all. Shalom.
Two men were talking. Both of them were Christians, but one had backslid. And they gotten into a conversation. And the backslider was complaining because everything had gone wrong for him. The Christian was trying to encourage him. And in the conversation, it went something like this. Because sometimes, no matter how strong you've been in the faith, things will go wrong for you. I just want to leave this with you tonight. This is what they were saying. You say you've been sick? Just two folk having a conversation. The Christian said, tell me about it. Tell me about it. He said, you sick? You don't think you can get well? Yeah. Where is your faith? Shh. The Christian kept on asking him, where is your faith? In God. They kept on talking. The man said, not only am I sick, but I'm in trouble. Say you're in trouble. Shh. The Christian said, tell me about it. The man said, I gotta go to court. He said, you're going to court? You got to go to court next week. The Christian said, that's all right. Go on. Where is your faith? Where is your faith? They kept on talking. The man said, you say you're out of work? I ain't got no job. Christian said, tell me about it. The man said, my money ran out and I'm down. All my bills are way past due. Somebody know what I'm talking about. The Christian said, where is your faith? Thank you, Lord. Tell me where is your faith? Can I get a witness here? They kept on talking. You know how you can talk. The man said, I got a habit. Say you got a habit. Everybody got a habit. Christian said, tell me. Oh, I wish y'all helped me sing that tonight. The man said, I'm hooked. I'm hooked. And I can't get myself free. Hey, hey, yeah. Just one more thing. The man leaned over and told him, say you're out of money. I knew just what he was talking about there. Tell me about it. And you're down to your last dollar. Oh, don't worry, don't worry. God will let you live by faith. Can I get a witness? Yes. Let's have a faith. Say you out of work. Say you out of work. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. And all your bills are past due.